Welcome to the Laser Channel. My name is Greg. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Ikier R1 and R2 rotary attachments that are a perfect complement to the Ikier K1 Pro laser machine. Ikier and AtomStack have joined up to form one company with the Ikier brand name carrying the performance and features at a premium level. The same holds true when looking at the rotary attachments. These are high-performing, feature-packed units. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the accessories that come with these two units. It comes with a very nicely detailed book, and don't let the thickness of the book scare you. They just have every language imaginable in this one manual, with English being in the front portion of the manual. The R2 roller unit features an auxiliary wheel set that can be placed off to the side here, along with a mini bubble level. The R1 rotary chuck accessory comes with this auxiliary stand. It also comes with this bag of accessories featuring some arm extensions for the chuck and various different types of chuck adapters. There's also a bag of tools of Allen wrenches and a wrench, primarily for attaching any of the jaw attachments to the rotary chuck. There's also a number of small screws for attaching the chuck jaw accessories. Now there's two sets of cables in here. The white ends are for the Ikier family of products, and the other cable has black ends for if you're hooking up the Ikier rotary units up to a third-party laser machine. There's also several measuring tools here. There's a vernier caliper that's included and a rudimentary tape measure. And lastly, of course, as we can already see, I have my Ikier K1 Pro machine already on the leg extensions that are included with the kit. Let's take a closer look at each of the individual rotary units. The R2 roller unit features this thick aluminum all-metal base plate. When I take a look at the bottom side, we'll see that there's 4 rubber pads, and that is to make sure that this does not shift around on the table, and this is very securely purchased to the table. The other thing that I'll note on the bottom side here is a number of thumb screws for adjusting the position of this roller, along with resetting the belt tension when this roller moves. When engraving glassware that's a perfect cylinder, this unit is all set to go. However, some of the more popular glassware typically has a taper to it, like this pint glass. If I place this on here and I try and run this glass just as is, this is going to wobble and hop around. This is where this auxiliary wheel set comes into play. This is an all-metal frame and again has that same rubber padding underneath that secures it down to the table. This is placed off to the back side here, and the back of the glass can rest on that. And when I place the included bubble level on the top, I can raise or lower this auxiliary wheel set to make sure that this glass is level with the laser, making sure that as the laser passes back and forth, it's always in focus. Next is the R1 rotary accessory. The first thing that we see on the side here is this little indicator plate, and this is marked out in degrees of rotation. And that is for when I flip the unit around, there's a large, it's not even a thumb screw, it's a whole hand screw, so it's very easy to loosen up and tighten, and that will allow this whole unit to tilt up and down ever so slightly, making sure that again, when the level is placed on top of the work material, it is level with the laser, keeping it in focus. I'll tighten this back up and rotate this back around, and we'll see that again, this is an all metal frame on here. The base plate is a solid 1/4 inch thick aluminum base plate. And again, there's several of these rubber pads that when placed on the work surface, it really grabs onto that work surface, not allowing this to shift around during the project. Inside this bag are all the jaw accessories for the chuck. Here I'll loosen up the chuck and we'll see that there's no tool needed for this. This is a hand-operated chuck, making it very easy to use, and there's no little chuck key that's needed that could be easily lost. Here I have one of the arm extensions for the rotary unit. These easily screw into the chuck here that is made out of brass. We can go around and screw all of these in, and once they're all screwed in, and we place this auxiliary stand off to the end here, we can easily place a round spear in here like a glass ornament, and everything is held securely to be engraved. I'll put some chuck adapters on and we'll hold on to this red cup. The other thing that's really neat to note on here is the cable connection on here comes out the side and not the back, meaning that anytime that I'm working on the chuck, putting any of these devices up there, that I can lay this on its back and not worry about crushing the connector or the cable. Next, all I need to do is expand the chuck out by hand, and I can place the red cup in and then just hand tighten this down. And the next part, if I choose to, I can install this auxiliary stand. Connection of the rotary accessory up to the main laser machine is very easy. I just find the appropriate cable to connect up. In this case, it'll be the cable with the white ends on it. And the two ends of the cable are different, so only one end will fit correctly into the motor on the bottom side of the rotary accessory. I can place this into the work area and we'll get this aligned in just a second. Before I do that though, I need to connect the other end of this up to the laser machine. And what we're going to do is unplug the Y-axis, or the axis that moves the machine in this direction, because we'll no longer need that. And we're going to plug this in its place. This connection is made right behind the main controller board, and we just simply disconnect that connector and plug the two halves together. That's very easy and everything is very accessible, and I'm now ready to turn the power on. Before I jump into light burn, now is a great opportunity to use the laser to align the rotary attachment up to the frame. And for this, I'll just use the bullseye and line that up to the center of one of these drive rollers. It doesn't matter which one, if it's the front or the back. There's also some center lines going down this unit. Any number of those will work perfectly. I'm just going to move this back and forth, making sure that I'm hitting directly in the center. And that's exactly what I have. I can then move this forward until I'm in the center in between the two rollers. That way, the laser beam will be perfectly centered up on the work material. Inside Lightbird, the first thing I want to do is make sure that the rotary attachment feature is activated in the software here, and that is normally found in this area here. If yours does not show up, you can navigate up to the top of the screen to Edit, Settings, and in this sub-menu there will be a spot right here, Show Rotary Enable on Main Menu. I can select that on, and now that shows up. I'll activate that, and we'll come up to this icon here, which is the rotary setup. There's a couple things here that we want to verify when we're running the roller attachment. Number one is we do want to run the roller attachment, and we want to double check that the rotary is enabled. Now on my machine, I already did a pre-test, so I'm going to streamline things here for you just to show you the settings that worked with my setup here. I found that when I have the rotary unit with the motor off to this side, I do have to mirror the image. I usually have the opening of the jar facing towards the motor drive on the rotary unit. With this activated, and we do want to double check that we are on the Y-axis, I'm going to skip this top one here, millimeters per rotation, and go down to the roller diameter. That is going to be the diameter of these rubber covered rollers down on the machine itself. And I've measured those out and they are 16 millimeters. Now, this millimeters per rotation, that is the number that you adjust to make sure that the width of the object comes out correctly on the material that you're engraving. I want to draw a box that goes all the way around this glass jar, and I want the two ends of the box just to meet up. This way, whenever I draw something out or import an object or an image and I engrave it on anything on that rotary, I know that the width in this direction, the proportions will be correct. To do this, I'll need to enter in the object diameter, and I measure this out at 69 millimeters, and down here in this calculator, it spits back a circumference of 116 millimeters. So to check this box test calibration, we call it, I would simply draw a box over here. I'm going to just draw a random one right now. And I'm going to make sure that the padlock is unlocked, and I'm going to type in that 216 millimeters, and this only needs to be about 2 millimeters wide. Now, this is what I would be doing to do a test engrave on the jar. So we see that the object in Lightburn is in a long line, and that's because it's going to wrap all the way around. And when I go back into the setup screen here, I adjust this number so that the ends of that box just meet. When you first do this, you might find that the ends don't meet or they overlap a little bit, and you just adjust this number until it looks good. This calibration only needs to be done once, no matter what size of object or the diameter that you place on the roller unit. I tested this out already, and on my machine, I found a setting of 40.5 millimeters per rotation, got the ends of that box to meet up just perfectly. This is all that needs to be done to set up and calibrate the roller attachment in the software using the Ikier K1 Pro machine. Next up, when we do the rotary chuck, we're going to be doing roughly the same things once again. Before I do that though, I want to come down here to devices, and I want to find my K1 Pro machine right here, and I want to click edit. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to keep everything the same. The only thing that I want to do is just change the name of this device in the device listing menu. And I'm just going to put dash roller. I'm going to click next. And this should all be defaulted from when you first found or set up your K1 Pro machine up to the Lightburn software. So now it reset the connection. I'm just going to pull that menu down again. And again, we changed none of the settings on how the machine works and connects to Lightburn. We just changed the name of that device. And that's going to make sense in just a couple minutes here. Before I unplug the rotary accessory and plug in the chuck accessory, I'm going to turn power off on the machine, and I'm going to give it a little bit of time to make sure that everything from the controller board is completely powered down before unplugging this accessory. The very first thing that I want to do here before I go into that rotary setup screen is I do want to go back into devices, and I'm going to click once on the K1 Pro roller, and I want to duplicate this. The first thing I want to do in Lightburn before I jump into the rotary setup is I want to go over to the devices, and I'm going to scroll down until I find my machine, the K1 Pro roller, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate that. And again, I'm just going to click next through everything here, and it says duplicate, and I'm going to change this to say chuck. And again, all these other numbers should all be the same as the original profile that you created when you first connected the machine up to Lightburn software. And I'll come back over here and I'm going to reconnect and go all the way to the bottom here, and I'm going to connect to that. And I'll explain that in just a minute, but first we're now able to go into the Rotary setup, and here we're going to click on Chuck. And from, again, the previous testing that I did to save some time and to keep the video short, when I use the chuck with the motor facing towards this side once again, I do not need to mirror the output. We are again still on that y-axis, and here that 40.5 millimeters per rotation, this number is going to change. I found that this number, again, for my setup, had to be 128 millimeters per rotation. This kit does come with the calipers, and that is because every object that we place in this chuck accessory, the diameter does have to be measured and entered in on this screen. This is everything that would need to be set up when using the chuck accessory. Now I'm going to loop back onto why I created a device profile for the roller accessory and one for the chuck accessory. And that is because when I'm in this Rotary setup menu, when I switch between the roller and the chuck, we're going to see that this millimeter per rotation does not change. So I would either have to write down or memorize the number that I need for the roller, and when I switch back to the chuck, I have to retype that number back in. That's something extra that I'd have to remember, and chances are I'm going to forget to change that number and I'm going to botch that. I'm going to leave this on chuck, and when I have the chuck machine selected from this pull-down menu, I can select that profile and connect up. And if I'm going to use the roller attachment with that different setup number, I can drop this menu down and find the K1 Pro with the roller. And it would be right there. Now, the next question might be, what if I'm not using the rotary attachment? That's a very good question, and all you need to do is just disable the rotary attachment, and the rest of the machine, once you connect the cable back in for that motor, it will operate just as it normally would. I hope that you enjoyed this video as I shared with you some of the different features on these chuck accessories that make them feature-packed and unique to the market today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I definitely appreciate it. I'll also have some product links down below. Those are affiliate links, and I do test those out. They are perfectly safe. They go to the main website for Ikier, and you get all the same pricing that you would normally get. So definitely, if you're interested in this, please do click on any of those links down below. Join me in future videos. We'll be doing some projects on these. I'd love to do them in this video, but then the video length just gets too long, and I just wanted to do a short video showcasing what these look like and just how easy they are to set up and calibrate in the Lightburn software. Until we meet again, learn, create, and share.